Welcome to the Today Show Toronto. I'm your host, Jay Stoyan. You're in for a special presentation. Today what we're doing is we're going to be interviewing the mayor candidates of Toronto. And right beside me, we have one of those candidates, Jeffery Tunney. Jeff, thanks for being on the show today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. As we know, you're probably going from street to street, community to community, doing your thing. So we really appreciate you taking the time out to come on today. We're down here downtown Toronto at our Toronto studios at Witchwood Barns, Artscape. Come on down, check us out. And we're also all about giving opportunities to persons with disabilities and veterans through our Ontario-funded employment program. So do check us out at www.thedisabilitychannel.ca. Our programs are free to enroll, but we have multiple programs. So make sure if you're looking at the programs, which one you're looking at, because most of them are free, but some of them do have a cost. So again, you can go to www.thedisabilitychannel.ca and find out what fits for you. So let's get the interview started. So again, we're here with Mayor candidate Jeff Tunney. Now, Jeff, tell us a little bit what inspired you to get into the race now. What happened?
It was a variety of different things.
Okay.
For starters, most people know me because I had a friend that was a victim of a crime.
Okay.
And just being thrown off to the side and that kind of thing was like something needed to change, as well as, being close to property owners and whatever. They're tired of the taxes and whatever. And I was just like, no, there's a better way that we got to do this.
Okay.
So my two most important things was it's time to speak up for the victims, and I don't want taxes no more going up. We have plenty of lucrative money that should help us budget the city out.
Well, I like the victim aspect because I agree. I think today that it seems like the perpetrator is getting more rights than the victim. It seems that from time to time, which is just. Let's take different variations of crimes. Like a white collar crime should absolutely have a different penalty than a violent crime, right?
True.
Like a violent crime, if you commit violence against an innocent person, personally, because again, we are the Disability Channel, the most vulnerable community who really needs policing, right? And really needs to feel safe.
And you just brought up a good point, because you see, this is part of the reason why if I become mayor, one of the first things I'm going to be doing, because even the internet scams that go on, when you report it, or if you know of people that are doing it, you take it up with the police or you take it up with the authorities. They don't do anything. They let them just carry on. They may take a report, but that's about it. They don't pursue it.
So speaking of that,
people in vulnerable situations.
So speaking of that, how would you break through? Because what you're describing, all of us taxpayers look at the same thing and we say the same thing you do. It's nothing can break through. Like, it's status quo, and the status quo isn't working, but nobody seems to be able to change the system. So how could you change the system, Jeff?
Well, one of the things I've noticed is that we need to start listening to the victims, listening to the crimes, because the more we listen, the more we learn, the more we're going to be able to help reduce it. As long as we continue on ignoring the victims, pushing them off to the side, letting things just slide, we're not learning anything, and we're just allowing crimes to continue on.
So give me an example on how you would stop the revolving door. And by that, I mean the same criminals, which are like, the same 15, 20%, are doing the same crimes over and over again, majority. So how would you stop the revolving door?
Well, one of the first things I'd like to do is start going after the provincial, because most of the violent crimes are with provincial and federal laws. So one of the first things, most of the things that I'd like to do is put pressure on them to make sure that, people that are violent or that are continue to be repeated offenders, there's no easy way out here. We need to start. We have this thing where you do a violent thing, and then 3 days later or 4 days later they're back out on the street again. It needs to stop. Now, I can't do that as a mayor because that's a provincial, federal level. But what you can do is you can put pressure on these guys to say, look, if you guys want to change, we need to do this for our city.
So Kate, and I like that. I mean, we could go on and on talking about crime in a city, but we all know that it is out of control and something has to be done. So let's move it along. Let me ask you this question. Do you believe, because our healthcare system is so overloaded, right? Overloaded, overtaxed, probably not run efficiently as much as it could be. Do you agree with bringing in privatized elements to help the public healthcare system?
No.
No, you don't.
Because the reason why we went public in the first place, or the reason why we stopped doing privatization, is because it's a way for other diseases to be spread. It's because what happens is people that aren't privatized with healthcare, like they'd have no healthcare to turn to, we don't check up on them. And without checking on them, they could be disease carriers, they could be something, and then all of a sudden we have another outbreak. So it just brings more problems. So this is the reason why I've always supported the decision to keep things public, because if you don't, you're waiting for a disaster to go happen.
So how would you downsize the 8 hours in the hospital waiting to have a 2-minute meeting with a doctor who then doesn't do anything but sends you home? How would you downsize the 8 hours of waiting?
You're bringing up a good question.
Well, you're the mayor. You need to have the answers.
Well, this is true. Basically, when it comes to the healthcare system, that we need to start looking. I think a lot of it has to do with we're shortage on staff. A lot of them are overdrained. A lot of them are stressed out. We need to start bringing in more staff. I think there's a very major big shortage of it. And like you said, doctors. We need to either have more doctors coming available so that they can help reduce the waiting line.
Because right now, rich people in Ontario or probably across Canada, like rich people who need procedures, they go to the States. They already do private health care. They go to the States or they go somewhere else and they get it done. So I don't think it can be stopped. I think it has a value as long as it's done properly in steps and transparency, right? Let's talk about transparency. Why is it that it's so difficult for the taxpayer to interact with their representative? It's so difficult.
I experienced the same thing. Meaning, I know what it's like to, help somebody out, and then once they get into power and whatever, it's like they throw you out to the side, like you're just completely being ignored. And that's one thing that I want to be able to, if I become mayor, I would really like to make sure that I can reach out to everybody and treat everybody and have the same respect for everyone than just,
Because you hear it all the time. People run because they owe favors and to help their friends.
Yeah, I'm not.
And you run to serve the public, and it seems like politicians today forgot that. They got elected by us to serve us.
Yeah.
And it seems like, nope, that part of the equation went out the door as soon as they got their seat.
That's part of the reason why I'm not getting much support with the city, because I'm not doing any favors. I've turned that all down.
So let's go back a little bit, because you talked about taxes.
Yeah.
Right? So what would you say to a Toronto first-time small business owner who is just beat down with regulations to the point where they've even given up to try to open up their new store next month, or they've opened it up for 3 months and it's just like, oh my God, like I can't survive. So what would you say? How would you help them?
Well, the first thing I'd like to find out their pay, how many employees there are, because when you open up a business, you have many employees. And I'd like to do anything that I can to make sure that these type of businesses stay open. We need to figure out ways to increase traffic. That's actually an interesting one, because I've been speaking with a lot of businesses, and a lot of businesses aren't really happening because the tourist industry has been cutting down. People are afraid of traveling right now because of the violent crimes such as on the TDC. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do is increase the traffic. I'd like to reach out to people that are struggling, because I don't want people to fail. I want people to be a success here in Toronto.
We're talking here with Mayor candidate Jeff Tunney. You're just telling us about his vision, about the ideas, and how he would help the people of Toronto. Now, speaking of Toronto, if you were to become mayor, that's probably the 4th or 5th largest city in North America.
It is.
Right? So with a lot of power, a lot of opportunities, how would you interact with the cities adjacent to Toronto? Like the cities closest to Toronto, how would you I sort of give them an olive branch, let's work together? What are type of the visions how you would sort of bring the other cities into Toronto so we could help everybody?
I guess you could say I want people to start working together. I mean, we're not going to be able to work together if we have our disagreements, or we need to make sure that we put our disagreements aside, have people to come together and sit down and discuss whatever issue, is going to be up front with. Because, I think every city, just not Toronto, but every city has their own problems. So that's basically where I'm at, where we all, and what could be actually, I really do encourage that other cities do come together, because we might be able to help some solve some of the same issues.
So let me ask you this, would you be interested in a future town hall?
A future town hall?
Yeah, town hall. So what I would like to do, what I'm going to be doing with all the candidates and eventually the mayor of Toronto, is I'm going to be setting up a town hall in our studio here. We're going to be inviting different sectors from the community, everything from the white collar to the blue collar to the trucker to the youth to disabled to a veteran, right? We're going to invite them all in. And because I think personally, the best way any leader works is listening to the people.
Well, that's what you have.
You got to listen to the people.
You have to know what the people want. You can't. When I become leader, I can't. See, this is the problem with a lot of the politics these days. It's all about what they want, and they don't bother to listen to the people. Whereas with me, like, some people are asking me all these questions. It's like, I don't know, because I have to find out what the people want. It's the people that vote. Well, if I get elected, it's the people that voted me. It's what the people want.
So you'd be open to a town hall then?
Huh? I'd be all for it.
Okay, one more question, and before we let you go, what would you do special, or not really special, but what would you do to support our community? When I mean that, I mean persons with disabilities and veterans, because obviously we are getting support, and we're not looking for more handouts. We're looking for opportunities that can keep us passionate about getting out of bed every day. So I need to know, how would you help our community help their lives?
Well, one of the first things I like to do is, I notice that some disability people, they have extraordinary great talents. And a lot of what I've noticed is that we keep that hidden. So if I do become mayor, one of the first things that I'd like to jump on is finding out those disability people that do have great talents, because I find that a lot of them are being repressed. A lot of them are having to hide their talent, and I don't think that's not right. I think that's very immoral, actually. So that's one of the first steps I'd like to do, is get the ones that are, have got great gifts, because I find, like, disabilities, when you have a disability, you always have another strength with you that comes with it. For an example, if someone's blind, they have to use their other senses, and because they have to use their other senses, they have that capability that we really don't have, because we know how to use all five. I remember this one lady I spoke to. She didn't see me for a year and a half, and she was completely blind, and all she did was touch my hand. She went, "You're Jeff," and it's like, holy crow! How, you remember me just by
That's a real good point, because we live it every day. Like here at the Disability Channel, we give opportunities to probably people, including veterans, right, who have probably maybe never had an opportunity in their life. And you know how I know that? Because they come through the door and tell me that. They say, "Jay, we've been with XY organization for the last 10 years, but we walked through your door, and this is the first door that you're actually teaching us a skill so we can get a job, so we can get off assistance." So what you said is very open-minded, and I really appreciate that.
And the other thing too is that I like to do, what you also mentioned, is I like to start, I can't really ignore them, but I'd like to start having people turn away from the services that, offer the service of, "Sorry, there's nothing that we can do." I know a lot of people that are on disabilities, even I've witnessed this myself. You go into a service that say, "Oh, we're there to help," and then when you go there for their help, they're right there with their staff to say, "Oh, sorry, there's nothing that we could do." That's got to stop. If you're not there to help, what are you being open for?
Well, we really thank you for being on the show today, Jeff. This was a great opportunity. We really like sharing your vision. Right?
Thank you.
We wish you all the best. I know there's a ton of candidates in there.
Yeah, there is.
But, we would like you to consider you a friend of the channel and come back anytime, because the more people who know what we do, the better it is for our community.
That's true.
So we really appreciate you on the show today. Again, you're watching the Today Show Toronto. I'm Jay Stoyan. We'll see you next time.